This is one of 6 short films which look beyond hierarchy at 2 different approaches to self-organisation.
This part is about discovering direction. It's about where you want to go. Your purpose includes vision, mission, strategy. It's about why your organisation exists, what you are there to do, and how you're going to do it, or what needs to happen for us not to be needed anymore. Even though these questions are fundamental, some challenges here are that they're often overlooked, as many people don't want to spend too long thinking or talking about it before starting, or they can prevent you starting because you can't get the plan just right, or a group gets stuck and can't agree what to do, or people just do something they want to do without evidence that it's actually needed in the world, and then find out it's not needed at all. Some benefits of working with purpose are that a clear purpose can be motivating and inspiring to work towards. When a purpose is shared between people, they're more likely to stretch themselves to overcome differences and get along to get the job done. If you know where you want to go in the first place, then it's easier to know if you've got there. Otherwise, how do you know if you're being successful? Different ways of running organisations have different ways of discovering direction.
This part looks at how this is done with a conventional hierarchy as a reference point for what the other 2 approaches are shifting away from. Here, vision, mission and strategy are normally decided by the people at the top, with varying degrees of input from other people in the organisation, shareholders or other stakeholders. The task of leadership is then seen as communicating these to others in ways that will inspire them to get on board. Some benefits of deciding direction from the top are that it's clear who has responsibility for deciding it, and the fewer the people who decide it, the quicker it is to make the decision. Direction can be clear and clearly communicated, and if you don't agree with it, then you have the choice to leave. Some challenges are that the organisation can become too dependent on just one charismatic person leading the way. And in today's complex world, it's hard for one or a few heroic leaders to see or know enough to make the best decisions, because other people have important knowledge and perspectives too. And when leaders do consult others, people often end up feeling disillusioned and demotivated by not feeling heard. A lack of motivation of those below leads to dead mission statement syndrome, where no one looks at it and people go off in different directions, often pulling against each other. And the leadership task of winning hearts and minds is well known for being very expensive and for failing dramatically. Creating a vision and inspiring others to follow is generally considered part of leadership. This normally involves researching information and analysing it using processes like the value proposition builder. And then the business model canvas will help you create a business model to deliver it. There are dozens of business and strategic planning tools for working with purpose in conventional hierarchies. But what does all this look like when people organise without a hierarchical structure? The next 2 parts look at 2 approaches to self-organising, which are shaped by different ways of seeing and being in the world.
In organisations with a more collaborative approach and set of values, it's more complex. The idea that one or a few people decide the direction goes against the values of most people in these situations. There is often the unspoken assumption that together we create a shared purpose. Maybe not where everyone totally agrees about every single part, which is almost impossible to achieve, but where there is general agreement about most of it. Arriving at a statement of purpose is less of a decision, as in hierarchy. It's more like a negotiation between people. Some benefits here are that when people are inspired by something they feel part of creating, they're more likely to give more of themselves to achieve it and work better together, and this helps us work for something larger than ourselves. Becoming more conscious of all that's influencing us, including the unseen and unsaid, creates alignment between people and to a larger purpose. Some of the challenges of working in this way are that everyone has their own ideas. Of course, there is some overlap, but it can be tricky to draw out people's ideas and identify the bits that overlap. And then what do you do with the bits that are different? This takes time and needs skilled facilitation. When people are attached to their own personal vision, it can easily become a battle for control about who decides the direction, especially if there's not conscious awareness and clarity around power structures. Tools which are used here are processes to negotiate a vision that is shared by members of the organisation. These can involve creative methods like guided visualizations, drawing, brainstorming, storytelling, and so on. If these are used when people can talk about and clarify power issues, the challenges of people trying to take over become easier to deal with. Responding to the needs of multiple stakeholders using tools like the value proposition and the social business model canvas. Processes to sense into a wider perspective of what is being called for in the world. Working with greater awareness of what influences us enables us to collaborate more consciously.
Another approach to self-organisation beyond hierarchy is more agile, responsive, adaptable, and evolutionary. There are many examples of this. This part looks at holacracy as an example of self-organisation with a dynamic steering approach. Here, direction isn't decided by people at the top, as in hierarchy, or collaboratively negotiated. It's more like it's discovered as it evolves. It's a response to the question, what is being called for by the world? But it doesn't come from a rational process of decision or negotiation. It's more emergent, where an organisation adapts to changes in the world in ways that don't follow our plans, but are in a general direction. It's more like evolutionary detective work. The role of all the people in the organisation is to sense tensions from doing the work, process these tensions through the meetings, and adapt the organisation in response. This leads to continuous, small shifts which help uncover a larger pattern that was previously hidden, to which the organisation is adapting and responding, and is also a part of creating. Some benefits of this approach are that, because it models how biological evolution works to create good designs for organisms, it enables us to do just that in our organisations. So, just as evolution has a genetic code, and a process for varying that code through random mutation and sexual reproduction, so does holacracy have a similar code, which is the constitution. And the process to vary that code is the governance process. When this is done in response to tensions sensed by people in the organisation from the environment, it means that the organisational structure and purpose can be informed and adapted by the grounded reality of what's needed in the environment, not our ideas of what we think should happen. It does this by requiring us to get ourselves, with our attachments and our limitations, out of the way as much as possible to allow evolution to happen. Some of the challenges of this approach are that it can be hard for us to take ourselves out of the way, to let go of the illusion that we have control, to allow an evolutionary porpoise, which is larger than ourselves, to unfold. And it requires an unconventional approach of tuning in, not so much in our rational minds, but rather into what's popping up and being called for in the world. For tools, the practice of holacracy itself in an organisation is a good way for purpose to evolve from doing the work. The Holacracy Strategy Meeting app, the work of Otto Scharmer and Peter Senge in their books Presence and Theory U. Other examples of organisations being guided by an evolutionary purpose are given in the book Reinventing Organisations. And mindfulness and awareness practices, such as meditation, which help us attune our consciousness to what's being called for next in the world.
To summarise, how has direction worked within your organisation? Is it rationally decided on by people at the top? Or maybe it's irrationally decided on? Or negotiated in a shared way amongst people with an equal say? Or discovered through evolutionary detective work? Or any mix of these? And how well is this method of discovering direction serving your organisation? And how could it do better?
These are just 3 models, which don't exactly fit reality, and not one of them is better than the others. Rather, each model fits better into a different set of conditions, culture, and values. Many organisations are a complex mix of these patterns, and recognising them will enable you to make conscious choices about which works best in your situation. Which is the better fit for your organisation, environment, and where things are moving to.